All right, so get this. UBS, the biggest bank over in Switzerland, they're looking into using blockchain for gold investments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're talking shaking up the whole world of finance with this kind of tech.
It really does sound like quite a bold move.
It is. And so the thing is, they're trying to take this existing digital gold platform they've got. It's called Key4 Gold, and like take it to a whole new level.
Okay.
And so Key4 Gold right now, it's only available to Swiss clients, but they're aiming for like a global audience.
Makes sense.
And that's where this whole ZKSync thing comes in.
ZKSync.
Yeah, it's a layer 2 technology, and it's designed to make those Ethereum transactions, faster and cheaper, more private, all that good stuff.
Gotcha.
So we're diving into a Twitter thread by @Corpy87, and then also an article from CoinDesk by Margot Nykirk to like get the full picture here.
So they're basically looking at blockchain to scale up and I guess maybe potentially make gold investing more accessible to people.
Exactly, and they're really interested in the specific type of ZK-Sync.
Okay.
It's called Validium.
Validium, okay.
Yeah, and it stores data off-chain.
Off-chain, interesting.
Which is apparently like key for handling just like a massive influx of global users,
Yeah, that makes sense. But what about security then?
Right.
Because a bank like UBS, they've got to have some pretty strict requirements when it comes to protecting people's financial data.
Oh, for sure. That's where those zero-knowledge proofs come in.
Okay, so how does that work?
So it's kind of like proving you have the right key to open a vault without actually revealing the key itself, if that makes sense.
Intriguing.
So they did this thing called a proof of concept, a POC,
Right.
And they used ZK-Sync Validium to test all these features out. So they simulated like issuing gold tokens and processing transactions. And guess what? The POC was like a huge success.
Really?
Yeah, ZK-Sync Validium delivered that privacy, the interoperability, that scalability they were looking for.
That's a big step.
It is.
But why is a traditional bank, like a big giant like UBS, so interested in all this blockchain stuff in the first place? Like, what are they really trying to get out of this?
Well, from what I'm gathering, it's about staying ahead of the curve, and like tapping into the potential of this whole emerging tech thing.
I see.
So they're looking at blockchain to streamline their operations, reduce costs, and ultimately provide a more efficient and accessible service to their clients.
So they're trying to almost bridge the gap between traditional finance and this new world of blockchain, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Like create this hybrid system that uses the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And get this, they're not alone in this, right? The article mentions Deutsche Bank.
Oh, wow.
They're exploring ZK-Sync for some of their projects, too.
Really? So it seems like a lot of these big institutions are starting to pay attention to this.
They are. It definitely signals like a shift in the whole financial landscape.
Yeah, for sure it does.
It makes you wonder, like, what's the bigger play here,
Right.
Are they just trying to improve this gold platform, or is there something bigger they're thinking about, a more ambitious vision?
That's what I'm thinking, too. Especially when you consider the potential of tokenizing other assets, not just gold.
Right, exactly. But before we go too far down that road, let's like dive deeper into what UBS has actually done with the ZK-Sync experiment.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit more.
Now, both the Twitter thread and that CoinDesk article we mentioned, they both highlighted some pretty like enthusiastic quotes from the people involved with this whole project.
Oh, yeah.
What stood out to you?
Well, Alex Kluchowski, he's the co-inventor of ZK-Sync.
Okay.
He seemed like super optimistic about this whole partnership. He even said, this PTC reflects UBS's continued efforts to explore how blockchain can enhance its financial offerings and support its broader digital asset strategy.
So it's not just about tokenized gold.
No, it sounds like they're thinking much bigger.
Right, like how blockchain can transform their whole business.
Exactly.
And then there's Christoph Purr.
Yeah.
He leads digital assets for the whole UBS group. And he kind of echoed that same sentiment. He said, this is another great example of how UBS collaborates with technology providers to stay at the forefront of innovation.
So they're really trying to position themselves as like leaders in this whole space.
Oh, for sure. But they also acknowledge the challenges that are still out there, right?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely challenges.
Purr even said, whilst tokenized securities hold a lot of potential to bring new solutions to our clients, scalability, privacy, and interoperability remain key challenges to overcome. And it seems like those are the exact challenges that ZK-Sync is supposed to solve.
Yeah, like they've found the problems and a potential solution.
Exactly. And it feels like a really pivotal moment in finance,
Yeah.
We're seeing a major institution, not just like accept blockchain, but really look for ways to integrate it into how they work.
Definitely.
What does this tell us about how we're going to interact with money and value in the future?
That's the question, isn't it? But I think for now, let's focus on what this all means for the everyday investor. Someone who's not running a giant bank.
Perfect. Sounds like a great way to transition into part 2 of our deep dive.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've established that UBS is making some, pretty big moves in this whole blockchain thing.
They are.
But what does all this mean for someone like me, or anyone else who's not like a giant financial institution?
That's really the key question here, right? Still early days, but the implications of all this, they could be huge.
Okay.
Think of it this way, like the internet back in the day, we all knew it was going to change the world.
Right.
But I don't think anyone could have predicted how it would really affect our lives.
So we're at like the beginning of a similar revolution, but in finance?
It's possible. And just like the internet made information so much more accessible.
Right.
Blockchain could do the same thing for finance.
Okay.
Think about it right now, investing in certain assets, things like gold, it can be really complicated and really expensive. But if big institutions like UBS can figure out how to use blockchain effectively, it could open up those markets to way more people.
Okay, so more people could invest in things like gold.
Exactly.
But I'm also thinking about the security of it all.
Yeah.
We hear so much about hacks and scams in the crypto world.
Sure.
Does using blockchain actually make things safer?
That's a really good question. And, it's important to remember that no system is perfect, right? Nothing's completely foolproof.
Right.
But blockchain technology, especially when you combine it with things like those zero-knowledge proofs we were talking about,
Yeah.
that can really beef up security.
Okay, so how does it work?
Well, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Imagine being able to prove that you have the key to a vault
Okay.
without actually showing anyone the key.
Okay.
That's basically what these zero-knowledge proofs do.
Oh, wow.
You can verify you are who you say you are, or you own what you say you own, but you don't have to reveal any private information.
Okay, so it's like a digital fingerprint or something.
Kind of, yeah, but even more secure.
Okay, so we've got easier access, better security. What else can blockchain do for everyday investors?
Well, remember how we were talking about how blockchain can make things more efficient?
Yeah.
Well, that can mean lower fees for investors.
Oh, I like that.
Traditional financial institutions, they have all these extra costs they pass on to their customers.
Right.
Blockchain has the potential to really streamline things.
Okay.
And maybe, hopefully, reduce costs for everyone.
Lower fees. That's good.
It is, and then there's the speed. Think about it. Have you ever waited for a bank transfer to go through?
Oh, tell me about it.
Right, it can take forever.
Yeah.
Traditional systems are slow, but blockchain, it can be so much faster.
Okay.
Especially for international payments.
Oh, yeah. Those are the worst.
Right, you can take days or even weeks with the old way of doing things.
So this is like, I don't know, sending an email versus sending a letter in the mail.
It's a good way to put it.
One's instantaneous and the other you're like waiting forever.
Exactly. And that speed, it can have a huge impact, especially on global business and investing.
Okay, this is starting to sound pretty amazing.
It does have a lot of potential.
Wider access, better security, lower fees, faster transactions. Is there anything blockchain can't do?
Well, like any new technology, there are some risks and challenges to keep in mind.
Like what?
One of the big ones is regulation. The rules for blockchain and crypto, they're still being worked out.
Okay.
And that can be a little unsettling for everyone, investors and institutions alike.
So like it's kind of a Wild West situation.
Yeah, kind of. And then there's scalability.
Well,
Technologies like ZKSync are designed to help with that.
Right.
But blockchain networks, they still need to prove that they can handle the huge amount of transactions that happen in global finance.
Okay.
What happens when everyone decides to use blockchain all at once?
Right. Can it handle that many people?
Exactly. That's the question.
Okay.
And then there's the issue of just education and awareness.
Mhm.
For blockchain to really become mainstream, people need to understand how it works.
Yeah.
And they need to feel comfortable using it.
It can seem kind of intimidating, to be honest.
It can, and that's why education is so important.
Okay, so we need to make it more user-friendly.
Exactly. We need to demystify it a bit.
Okay, but getting back to UBS and their whole gold thing,
Yeah.
What other things in the real world could be tokenized using blockchain besides gold?
That's where things get really exciting.
Okay.
Potentially, almost any asset you can think of could be tokenized on a blockchain.
Like what?
We're talking about real estate, art, intellectual property, even things like carbon credits or renewable energy certificates.
Wow. So instead of owning a physical piece of art, you could own a digital token that represents that art.
Exactly. And this tokenization, it could revolutionize how we buy and sell and trade assets.
Okay.
It could create more efficient markets, more transparent markets, less fraud, and it could open up investment opportunities to so many more people.
So we're talking about taking this whole idea of digital ownership to like a whole new level.
Yes. And if you zoom out and look at the big picture, it really raises some fundamental questions.
All right.
About what it means to own something, what value really is, even how we define assets in a digital world.
Okay, yeah, that is pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
What are some of the downsides of tokenizing everything?
One concern is that it could create a really speculative market. You remember the whole NFT craze?
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Tokenizing assets could lead to similar bubbles and tons of volatility.
So we've got to be careful not to get caught up in the hype.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of making sure that these tokenized assets are actually backed by real-world value.
Right.
And that there are systems in place to prevent fraud and manipulation.
So it's not just about creating these tokens, it's about building a whole system around them that people can trust.
Exactly. And that's why regulation and education are so important.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits and the challenges of tokenization.
We have.
But going back to UBS and their gold project, what makes gold such a good choice for tokenization?
Well, gold has always been a safe haven for investors.
Right. It's like the classic safe investment.
It is. It's a real asset with a long history of stability, and everyone around the world recognizes it.
Okay.
But owning physical gold can be a pain.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You have to store it. You have to keep it safe. It's a hassle.
Right.
Tokenizing gold, it lets you benefit from the value of gold without all those headaches.
So you're basically getting the stability of gold with the convenience and safety of owning something digital.
Exactly. And that ease of access, it could make tokenized gold a really attractive option for people who are worried about inflation or economic uncertainty,
Yeah, like a safety net.
Exactly. But here's what's really interesting.
What?
This move by UBS, it could be a sign of a much bigger trend.
What do you mean?
Well, if traditional financial institutions like UBS are starting to embrace blockchain and tokenization,
Yeah.
does that mean we're moving towards a future where crypto just becomes normal mainstream?
That's a good question. Are we seeing like a merging of traditional finance and this whole blockchain thing?
It really seems like it. These institutions, they're realizing that blockchain can help them improve their services,
Yeah.
reduce their costs, and reach new customers. It's not necessarily about crypto replacing traditional finance.
Okay.
It's more about finding ways for the two to work together.
So like taking the best parts of both and creating a better system for everybody.
Exactly. A more efficient system, a more transparent system, a system that's accessible to everyone. That's a pretty hopeful vision for the future of finance.
It is, but what does it all mean for like the average person listening to this right now?
That's what we should all be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And while no one can predict the future for sure, these developments really suggest that blockchain technology is going to play a much bigger role in our lives. Whether it's through things like tokenized assets, faster payments, or more secure financial systems, blockchain has the power to change how we think about and interact with money.
Okay, you've definitely convinced me that this is something to watch closely.
It is.
But what's next? What can our listeners do to stay ahead of the curve in all of this?
That's a great question. And I think it starts with...
So we kind of left off on a cliffhanger there at the end of part 2.
We did.
You were going to tell us what our listeners can do to stay ahead of the curve in this whole... I mean, it's a fast-moving world of blockchain and finance, right?
It really is. And it all starts with just being curious. You know,
Okay.
Don't just take things at face value. Ask questions, dig deeper, explore different points of view.
I like that. Curiosity, that's what drives innovation, right?
Exactly. And it leads to new discoveries.
But where do people even start? There's so much information out there, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Oh, for sure. But the internet is a pretty amazing thing.
Yep.
There are so many resources online, websites, blogs, podcasts. You can even take online courses.
So there's something for everyone, no matter how much they know about technology.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to actually get involved. Like, try things out.
Okay.
Dip your toes in the water, experiment with crypto, maybe try using a decentralized app.
Okay.
There's no better way to learn than by actually doing it.
So learn by doing, I like that, but I think some people might be a little hesitant, to
Yeah.
put their money into something they don't fully understand.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's a little, risk averse?
I'd say start small. Don't invest more than you're comfortable losing.
Okay.
Think of it like an educational investment,
Like paying tuition for the school of blockchain.
Exactly. And while you're learning and trying things out, it's really important to understand the risks,
Right, because this is still a pretty new technology. There are risks involved.
Oh, absolutely. The crypto world can be volatile. Do your research, be careful of scams, and never invest just because you're afraid of missing out.
So no FOMO. Okay, good advice. Stay informed, experiment carefully, and be aware of the risks. Anything else our listeners should be thinking about as they explore all of this?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this is all still evolving. What we're seeing now, it's just the beginning.
So buckle up. Things are going to get even more interesting.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Where do you see all of this going in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't have a crystal ball, but I do believe that blockchain has the potential to create a financial system that's more fair, more accessible, more efficient for everyone.
That's a pretty powerful idea, using technology to make things more equal.
It is, and it's about giving people more control over their own finances.
Okay, I'm definitely excited about the possibilities.
Me too. And the best part is, the future of finance, it's being created right now, and we all have a chance to be a part of it.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to ponder. We talked a lot about tokenized gold, but what other things in the real world could be tokenized and traded on blockchain in the future?
Oh, wow.
And what kind of impact could that have on the global economy?
Those are some great questions, ones that we'll all be thinking about in the years to come. Imagine a world where everything from real estate to artwork to intellectual property is represented by digital tokens and traded that way.
That would be pretty amazing.
It would. It could completely change how we think about ownership and value.
So to our listeners, keep those questions in mind as you continue exploring the world of blockchain and beyond.
Absolutely. The future of finance is being shaped right now. So stay curious, stay informed, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to change how we think about money.
Maybe. Well said. And on that note, we'll see you all next time for another deep dive into, well, whatever fascinating topic we uncover next.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us.